Welcome back to the Well-Seasoned Librarian, the podcast that brings you the scoop on the freshest stories, the sharpest minds, and the most captivating books hitting the shelves. It's Season 16, Episode 12, and tonight, we're swapping library stacks for high-rise Manhattan bars because our guest is mixing things up. Join your host, the one and only Dean Jones, as he sits down with award-winning author, copywriter, poet, and bartender Thea Engst. They're diving into her fabulous new book, Sex and the City Cocktails. Fall in love with 60 fabulous and official cocktail recipes inspired by the show. This is the ultimate gift for fans, featuring expertly curated drinks inspired by Carrie, Samantha, Charlotte, and Miranda, from the Naked Cosmo to Dirty Martini, Dirty Bastard. Get ready for a generous pour of glamour, wit, and literary libations. And now to our conversation.
Welcome to the podcast. Today I'm speaking with Thea Engst. Thea, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
To start, can you tell us a bit about where you're from and where you call home now?
Sure. So I'm originally from a small town in upstate New York called Fabius. Probably never heard of it. It's not far from Syracuse. And I now live in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Very nice. You have a decade-plus history in hospitality alongside degrees in literature and creative writing. How did these two great loves, writing and hospitality, initially emerge? And at what point did you realize your specific passion was writing drink recipe books?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I I always knew I wanted to be a writer, sort of ever since I was a little kid. And, when I was in ninth grade, my English teacher, Todd Benware is his name. We're still in touch. And he noticed that as we were studying poetry and I was writing these assignments, he sort of took me aside one day and was like, you're not really a writer unless you're sharing your work with someone else. And you have this gift, and I think you should be sending your poetry out to be published. And I think you should focus on your writing and really grow this skill. So, and he was correct. I was writing a ton in notebooks no one ever saw until that moment. And then he is the reason why I got my first poem published when I was 15. And so I've known for a long time that I wanted to be a writer. I studied poetry, mostly writing poetry, and then various types of other creative writing and reading and literature. And when I got out of college with a degree in literature, poetry, and theater, I went right into getting an MFA in creative writing with a focus in poetry at Emerson College in Boston. And of course, I needed a job. So I started working at a restaurant. And that was when I first got my first restaurant job. I was a host and in Somerville at the Independent in 2009. And I worked my way up as a server, and then to be a bartender, then bar manager, then AGM, and then GM. And so there's not a lot of jobs in the restaurant I haven't done. And at the same time was earning my degree in writing. So I sort of really fortunately found out at a pretty young age, because at 2009, I think I would have been 24, that 24 or 25, that I had a new love that I loved just as much as writing, and that was bartending and making drinks and providing excellent customer service. And so the two sort of naturally came together in my first book in 2017 that I co-authored with my longtime coworker and good friend Lauren Vigdor, and that was Drink Like a Bartender.
I gotta say, just personally, from my experience working in the food and hospitality industry and also going to school and being in academia, the fact that you're doing both of those at the same time is pretty impressive. You're like a Navy SEAL. How did you manage that?
Oh my God, that's funny because I was working in the restaurant. I was a nanny. I babysat
Dear God, you did all three of those things together?
and I did 10 hours as a research assistant for a professor. So I just didn't have days off. And
So you didn't sleep. You didn't sleep at all.
I did sleep in bed with my homework, and I would wake up and sort of roll over and be like, "Okay, let's take a look at what we can get done." And anytime I just could um do extra work, I would. And I was just, it was like the hardest 3 years and the best 3 years of my life, I would say, because I learned so much about what I was capable of. I was definitely a sheltered kid up until then, and life sort of hit me hard in adulthood. And um I rose to the occasion, and I never really looked back. I never stopped moving, still to this day.
That's good. Your biography mentions you're currently working on a first novel, and we touched on your poetry and that you've always written. Can you give us a small tease about the shift to fiction and what the process has been like compared to writing cocktail books?
Yeah, I would say the closest similarity is just the discipline of making yourself sit down and do it. Other than that, the process has been so different for me. The concept of my novel is not sort of, it's based in reality. As before we got started, I told you, how to pronounce my name.
Hmm.
It's Thea, spelled Thea, and I was named after a woman who my grandfather dated after World War II. He was an American soldier, and he was stationed in Austria after the war. And he dated someone named Taya, came back to America, met my grandma soon after, and they got married, had 3 kids. They ended up having 8 grandkids, and somewhere I'm at the end of the line, I ended up with the name Taya. So I always sort of knew the story. I regret to say I never asked him more details when he was with us. But my novel is a reimagining, or my own imagining, of their story, her story, why she didn't come to America with him. Um, and how I ended up with her name all those years later. And also at the same time, my actual grandmother's story, that's majorly fictionalized as well. So just all these different stories, and then a fictionalized version of myself, because in 2015, I quit my job and traveled through Europe for about 2 months, retracing his infantry steps through the war.
Oh, wow.
So that's where it really started. So it's, more than 10 years in the making now. It's different time periods, different people. As I'm sort of trying to tell my own story, it's inevitable to do that without telling someone else's. So, um, unfortunately, because I don't have the actual answers, it has to be fiction, but it's rooted in
Yeah,
how I ended up with this name that no one can pronounce.
that's wonderful. I want to read that. I'm hope that you're able to publish that soon because I
Thank
can't
you.
now that I'm interested, I can't wait to read it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So get on that.
Trying, trying. I'm looking for an agent, honestly. I'm in the stage where I'd love to have an agent look at it. So that's where I'm at with that.
I want to talk about your 2017 first book, which was a hit, Drink Like a Bartender. And somebody who works in libraries and has worked in bookstores, yeah, I definitely recognize the name when it came out, and I've seen it in libraries that what I worked in. Drink Like a Bartender was named one of the best booze books of 2017 by Forbes, which is no small feat. That's a pretty big accolade. What key piece of advice from the book do you think is most vital for an aspiring home mixologist?
Yeah, I think that what Lauren and I really tried to hammer home with that book was just keep trying things, keep tasting things. You don't know until you taste it. Um and don't be afraid to make mistakes when you're mixing at home. And have fun with it. I think, the whole tone of the book is sort of joking around and being a little sassy and having fun. And I think that when you're mixing at home, to just maintain that, like, this should be fun and it's okay to make mistakes. You just dump it out and start over. It's not that big of a deal.
I like that.
Yeah.
Your first solo book, Spirits of the Tarot, won the Excellence in Wine, Beer, and Spirits Writing Award. Again, that's no small accolade. What inspired the incredibly unique concept of mapping the entire Rider Waite deck to the 78 individual cocktails? And again, as somebody who studies tarot myself and has written about tarot, that's no small feat. That's pretty big. Do you have a personal favorite card drink pairing? And can we talk a little bit about the book? I'm very excited to talk about this with you.
Um, so what inspired the book? I'd worked on Drink Like a Bartender with Adams Media, and then Nectar of the Gods came next, and those had both been co-authors. And after Nectar of the Gods, and I had worked on I did the cocktail recipes for the unofficial Disney Parks books because the author Ashley Kraft doesn't drink alcohol. So I just sort of came in and did some here and there all through Adams Media. And after Nectar of the Gods, I said to my editor, Eileen, I said, I want my own. I want my own book. I think I earned
Yeah.
it. You know, I can do it. And I said, I have this idea cooking, and she loved it and she went to bat for me. So that's where Spirits of the Tarot came from. So, and then as far as choosing my favorite, it's sort of hard. Um, depends on the parameters. Like I love, the recipe for the tower card because it just looks like the tower card. It's long and tall in Collins glass, and I hollow out a half of a lime and pour overproof rum in it and set it on fire. So it's literally just a tower on fire. So just not only did it taste good, it's like a mezcal paloma type riff. But it looks like the card. And I remember when that happened and I was like, oh my God, my vision came to life. I'm so proud of this. So there's some like that. And then there's some like, I really like the recipe I did for the lovers as well. It's made with Applejack whiskey as a nod to the apples and the Adam and Eve representation on the card. And there's a dash of orange bitters and nonino to bring in the orange flavors. And, in ancient, when it comes to ancient traditions and medicine and spell work and magic, oranges can attract friendship and relationships. And so I tried to incorporate ancient herbal um, sort of magic traditions and spell work as well as I crafted these recipes, which went from infusions to syrups, garnishes, even the flavors like nonino has an orange hint to it. So um, it's hard to say which one is my favorite. I'm very proud of this book.
I got to get my hands on a copy because this sounds really wonderful to me. I can see this being a good gift for friends. So that sounds like a wonderful book.
Yeah.
You brought up also, I want to talk a little bit about your book, Nectar of the Gods. Again, this is something that really speaks to my heart. And you had worked on it with your podcast host, Liv Albert, focusing on Greek mythology. What was the most fun or challenging part of transitioning the personalities and tales of gods and goddesses into libations like Hera's Hurricane or Eros on the Beach?
So I would say that Liv Albert is the podcast host and co-author on that. She did the heavy lifting with the storytelling. While I love a good mythology or a good legend stories, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, anything like that, I am nowhere close to the expert that she is. So the way that we wrote that book, not only was it a really effective for the book itself, but she had this way of organizing her thoughts and her inspiration that I carried with me into Spirits of the Tarot. And so she wrote this whole sort of spreadsheet, and she had the cocktail names worked out already. And she would just tell me what she absolutely wanted from the drink. And it could be like Eros on the beach, Sex in the beach on the beach riff.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious. Okay. So that's like, I can work with that. And then, for Agamemnon's bathwater, she was like, it just has to be red. That's all she wanted. It could be red from cranberry, it could be red from a sweet vermouth, it could be red from Campari or Aperol. It just has to be red. And then Pandora's jar, I feel like her thing was, I just see something like floating in it. I want it to be like dark things floating. And we went with muddled blueberries. So that was so helpful. And like I said, she was the expert in her field, and I was the expert in mine. And I feel like working with her was just such a dream. And then of course, after that, I was like, I want to do this on my own. And I sat down and I was like, oh my God, where do I get started? And then I thought about Liv's beautiful chart. And so I sat down and I did all the cards and I was like, what's the first thing you think of? And started writing down ideas, even if it was, well, there's a pomegranate on that card for sure. So let's try to get pomegranate. And then maybe it was like, I don't know, but I think love, I think attraction. Let's try to get roses or hibiscus or any of the lavender, any of those traditional flowers that attracted love and attraction back, back in the day. I think it was in Egypt they would they have lavender on their necks to attract men, or women did. So uh all that sort of fun stuff. And I always I told Liv later, I was like, you're the one, you really helped me write Spirit to the Tarot. You don't even know it. It was your organizational skills.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it brings us to your current book that I really want to talk to. Now, I'm a rare bird. I'm a guy that loves Sex in the City, and
Mhm.
I really loved the show, the original show, when it was on. I haven't really caught up with the new show, but like back in the day, I used to watch it all the time, and many of my girlfriends were so amused by this because they're like, "You're not the kind of person that would typically like this," but it was almost like science fiction for me because it's not my world, it's not my element, but it's vastly fascinating, and all the different characters are very fascinating. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, the my friend my friend the editor Eileen, who had edited Drink Like a Bartender and then also Spirit to the Tarot with me at Adams Media, she moved over to this new publishing house, Insight Editions, and she reached out and said, "Did you ever watch the show Sex and the City?" And I'm laughing because, like you, I've been a fan for my whole life.
Yeah.
Um, we're looking for authors. Would you put together a pitch for me? And I was like, yes. So, fortunately, I was considered in the pitch and put together 3 recipes with recipe messages of, what the name meant, why this recipe, what it referenced, and they chose me, so I feel very lucky. But yeah, I mean, like you, I was watching it since I was a kid. I mean, I remember we didn't have HBO, but my sister would bring home her DVDs from college and we would watch it on her like teeny tiny, PC screen. And yeah, so I really grew up with them. And um as I rewatch the show every few years or whenever, and the older I get, more watching these women, I find that I identify with them in more ways. I'm more compassionate towards their decisions in more ways. I feel like it's a really interesting evolution. I think it's a testament to the show that I can grow with it as well.
Now, I got to ask, are you a Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, or Charlotte?
I've given this a lot of thought. I think that, as you know, I as much as I love so much about all of them, but at the end of the day, I'm the writer. I am often the comic relief in my friend group. I love a good word pun, and I have terrible taste in men, so it's gotta be Carrie.
That's a good character. I love that. That's great. Now, the book is divided into chapters based on the 4 main characters' personalities, as we just mentioned: Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, Charlotte. Can you explain how you design the flavor profiles and style of a drink, like Miranda's Cosmo or Samantha Kicks Cancer's Ass, to reflect their specific characters and key life moments in the series?
Yeah, so, I think that, for each of them have their own Cosmo variation, and I tried really hard to, make that sort of like their core signature drink. So I wanted Miranda's Cosmo, for example, to be very red and sort of like that iconic red hair she has and a little bitter. So I went with, some Aperol, some blood orange liqueur just to make it uniquely Miranda. And then but so with the other drinks like Samantha Kicks Cancer's Ass, it's more specific to the later episodes when she's battling cancer. I thought, you know, what is Samantha like in this moment? She's strong. We're gonna add some rum in there to keep it a strong drink, but I wanted it to be a little pink for breast cancer and a little soft as well because she was finally sort of not finally, but she was more consistently vulnerable in ways that she hadn't been before, I think. And I think it's one of the many um, moments that brought her closer to Smith Jared. I think that that softness that she had came out. He was able to um, help her and support her and love her through all of it. And I think that only made her stronger and their relationship stronger. So I added egg white and of Coqui Rosa and Lillet Rosé to make it pink. And then the egg white makes it fluffy, and then with the really nice little rose petals on top, which of course, as we go back to Spirits of the Tarot, not only pretty, but reminiscent of love and deep connection. So every drink I try to sort of elicit that moment and what it was to me. It's sort of like my own retelling of retelling the show through liquid.
The show is famous for the Cosmopolitan. That was a huge part of the show. But the book features over a dozen other drinks ordered by name. Was there a forgotten or less known cocktail from the show that you particularly excited to bring into the spotlight? Because, like, for instance, I remember when Samantha, Samantha, liked different whiskeys, and I remember that Carrie I mean, so it wasn't like it was so cut and dry. They weren't always drinking Cosmos, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, this is a good question because the first thing I did when I thought, let's make some that they actually call out by name, and um I thought that that would be a longer list to get me started than there was. But there's this one episode where they end up at the end. Samantha has just moved to the meatpacking district, and at the end of the episode, they're drinking flirtinis on the rooftop with her new neighbors. It's the same episode where Carrie has the vet next to her has moved their roosters on the roof at night, and they're keeping her up all night. And so they're all dealing with like nighttime noises in their neighborhoods. And I thought, when was the last time I looked it up. I was like, what is even in a flirtini? Is that even a real drink, or is that just a cute name? And so I looked it up and I thought, I feel like I can make a nice riff off this, like with the same spirit of these two happenings. So I did it with Blanco tequila, Reposado tequila, some orgeat, pineapple juice, Prosecco. So it's sort of this like split tequila based tiki celebratory drink that worked really well. And then I garnished it with some pineapple leaves to represent the tails of those roosters who eventually got rehomed. So that was fun because I was like, I think the Flirtini could use a little glow up in 2025.
Now, I want to be also clear too that the book does include spirit-free and low ABF options. Why was it important for you to include these recipes to ensure there's something for every taste and every occasion, even a cozy watch party?
Yeah, I think that you shouldn't have to be drinking alcohol to enjoy something beautiful and tasty. Something that's a little fanciful like a cocktail. And I love having NA options, and I'm just happy that there's more and more of a market for it because it's always been something I try to push for, and now it seems more commonplace. So, yeah, I mean the short answer is everyone should be able to cheers with something beautiful and delightful even if it doesn't have alcohol in it. Why not?
Absolutely. Inside Editions, the publisher, they do great cookbooks. I work with them a lot, and I always love seeing what they're going to come out with next because everything's really beautiful. How did you feel to finally have the book in your hands and look at it?
Um, More emotional than I've ever felt when unboxing a book. Like even with Spirits of the Tarot, I'm not sure I'm not sure what it was. I mean, I'd worked so hard on it. I'd worked so hard on all of them though. But there was just something different this time when I maybe more so my connection to the show and these characters, and that it is the only official Sex and the City cocktail book, and forever my name is now attached to Sex and the City, and I think that holding that's probably what made it. I was like, "Oh my God, this is real. This is real, real." But yeah, I actually did a unboxing video for my social media on my TikTok and my Instagram, and I was filming and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna cry." I did not expect it at all. So, just really emotional, and I sort of opened it off camera and closed it, and like had to sort of warm up to like, "This is real. It's in your hands. You did this. It's out in the world now."
I think those emotions are warranted. It's a good-looking book, and I think people are really going to love it.
Thank you.
If a fan of the show could try only one recipe from Sex and the City cocktails to feel transported to glitzy Manhattan, what drink would you recommend that they make first?
Well, there's a few options here. I feel like when I often think of these women and they're rehashing their days and their nights before and their work weeks and everything, I think of them often at brunch. And I feel like the best brunch forward cocktail that's also glitzy and lovely is actually funny. It's named after Charlotte's dog, when Elizabeth Taylor Goldenblatt um when she joins the family, but I made it purple to um as a nod towards, Elizabeth Taylor. As they said, she had violet eyes, they'd say in
Yeah,
a certain light. So it's made with, Empress gin, a little creme de violette, and lemon and simple and prosecco. So it's sort of like a marriage of a aviation and a French 75, and it's just purple and the champagne flute. And I feel like it's something that they'd be cheersing with over brunch. So I would probably say that one.
I love that. Taya, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I've loved getting a chance to talk about your new book, Sex and the City Cocktails. And I want to let everybody know that that's currently out now. You can get it at all better bookstores, and we have links to purchase it through the bio, so you can go through there as well. Taya, thank you for being on the podcast. It was a treasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much. This was fantastic. I really appreciate being here.
And that brings us to the bottom of the glass for this episode of The Well-Seasoned Librarian. A huge thank you again to our incredible guest, Thea Engst. Her book, Sex and the City Cocktails, is a must-have, whether you're hosting a high-profile gathering or settling in for a cozy watch party. You can find 60 official recipes, including spirit-free and low ABV options, all guaranteed to bring that Manhattan glamour straight to your home bar cart. To grab your copy, look for Sex and the City Cocktails at all better bookstores and through the direct link we've provided in the show notes and podcast bio. And as always, thank you to all of our dedicated listeners for tuning in. We love bringing you these conversations every week. And from our team to you, until next time, we will see you in the library.
Calling all cookbook lovers. Do you dream of having a massive, curated library of the world's best cookbooks right in your pocket? Stop dreaming and start cooking. CKBK is the ultimate digital cookbook library, giving you access to nearly 1,000 full cookbooks from top authors instantly. Search by ingredient, create custom recipe playlists, save your favorites, and even sync with your print collection via Eat Your Books. It's perfect for serious home cooks and collectors. And here's a special offer just for well-seasoned librarian listeners. Get 25% off a subscription to CKBK. Just head over to their website and use code WELLSEASONED at checkout. That's code WELLSEASONED for 25% off your subscription to CKBK. Level up your kitchen library today.